Welcome back to our deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita. Last time we explored those two paths from chapter 4, remember? Selfless action and knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, today we're moving on to chapter 5, where Arjuna kind of throws a curveball at Krishna.
Oh,
He asks, which is better, giving up all action or embracing selfless action? What do you think?
hmm. Well, it's interesting because Krishna actually says both paths can lead to a good life.
Oh, okay.
But he adds a little twist. He suggests that selfless action might be a more practical fit for most people.
So you're saying you don't need to become a hermit to grow as a person.
Exactly. You can be right in the thick of things in the everyday world.
That's a relief. But how do we actually put this idea of selfless action into practice in our daily lives?
Well, chapter 5 really dives into a key concept: detachment.
Detachment.
Yeah, but it's
Oh,
not about abandoning your responsibilities, just walking away from everything.
okay, so what is it about then?
It's more about shifting your focus away from fixating on the results of your actions.
I see. But isn't there a danger in becoming too detached? What about ambition, drive, wanting to achieve things?
Right. It's about finding that balance.
How do we balance that with this idea of not getting caught up in outcomes?
It's a great question. Think of it like an athlete, right?
Uh-huh.
They train hard, they give their all in a competition, they're striving for excellence,
Yeah.
but they don't get all hung up on winning or losing.
Okay, yeah.
It's about focusing on the process, the effort, the journey itself.
So it's about putting in the work, but letting go of needing to control those results.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
It's easy to say, but in real life, it's hard not to get caught up in wins and losses.
Absolutely. It's tough. That's where this idea of detachment comes in.
Okay.
It's about finding that inner balance, that sense of calm, what we call equanimity.
Equanimity.
There's this powerful quote in the chapter that I think really illustrates this.
Okay.
It says, "The one who neither hates nor desires is considered a true renunciate. Free from dualities," it goes on, "they are easily liberated from bondage."
So it's about riding the waves of life's ups and downs,
Yeah.
without getting too attached to either the highs or the lows.
Exactly. You got it.
But how do we cultivate that kind of inner peace? How do we even begin to do that?
Well, the chapter uses this beautiful image to try to explain it.
Oh, I like images.
It says, "One who performs actions, offering them to the divine and abandoning attachment, remains untouched by sin, just as a lotus leaf is untouched by water."
The lotus image. That's really striking, It makes me think about how easily we can get, I don't know, bogged down by negativity. Is
Yeah.
that what they're getting at?
Yeah, it's about rising above.
That we can
Uh,
stay true to ourselves even when surrounded by negativity. That's pretty hopeful, right?
It is hopeful. Think about it.
Yeah.
The lotus flower, right? It grows in muddy water, but the leaves stay clean and pure.
Right.
It's a powerful metaphor for navigating the complexities of life. We may be surrounded by negativity, but it doesn't have to taint us.
So it's not about escaping the world.
Right.
It's about, what, finding a way to stay true to ourselves, even when things get rough.
Exactly. And the chapter goes on to describe the qualities of someone who's achieved this inner freedom.
Okay.
They're content, they have self-control, and here's a big one.
Okay.
They see the good in everyone.
That's a powerful idea. Reminds me of another great quote from this chapter.
Yeah.
It says, "The wise see with equal vision a learned scholar, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and even an outcast."
Absolutely. That's such a crucial point. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity in every being, no matter their background, their status, anything.
Right, right.
It challenges us to look past those surface differences and see that common thread that connects us all.
So how can we apply this? How can we apply this lotus metaphor to our own lives? This idea of rising above the mud.
Yeah.
What does detachment look like when we're dealing with a difficult boss or navigating family drama?
Right. Well, let's say you're dealing with a difficult coworker, for example.
Yeah.
Instead of getting caught up in their negativity, you can choose to focus on your own actions and reactions, right?
Okay.
You can still, strive to have a good working relationship,
Yeah.
but you don't have to let their behavior dictate your inner peace.
Okay, so it's about setting boundaries, choosing how we respond to challenging situations.
Exactly. And this applies to family drama too, right? Instead of getting swept up in all that emotional turmoil, you can step back,
Uh-huh.
try to see things from a more detached perspective.
This reminds me of what we were talking about earlier,
Mm.
the idea of selfless action.
Right.
How does that tie into this whole concept of detachment?
They're actually super connected. You know, when you act selflessly, like without expecting anything back in return,
Yeah.
you're naturally less attached to the outcome, you know?
Okay.
You're doing something because you believe it's right, not because you want a specific result.
Right. So like volunteering, helping a friend in need. You're not doing it for recognition, a pat on the back.
Exactly, yeah. It just feels good to contribute.
Right.
And when you go through life with that attitude, you're less likely to be bummed out when things don't work out the way you planned.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've got detachment, not being fixated on results, and selfless action, doing things without expecting anything back. How do these ideas actually, I don't know, play out in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
Can you give me some specific examples?
Absolutely. Let's say you're working on a big project at work.
Right.
You're putting in long hours, you're really dedicated, but then in the end, it doesn't get approved.
Oh yeah, I've been there. It's so hard not to take it personally.
Right. But if you come at it with a sense of detachment,
Yeah.
you can acknowledge the disappointment, but it doesn't eat you up inside, you know.
Okay.
You can say, hey, I did my best, I learned something, you can move forward.
Instead of getting all hung up on the rejection, you can actually focus on what you gained, what you learned.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about growth. And this goes for relationships too, you know.
Okay.
Say you're putting a ton of effort into a friendship, but it's not reciprocated.
Hmm. It's so easy to fall into that trap of self-doubt. Like, what's wrong with me?
Absolutely. But detachment helps you step back and recognize that you can only control your own actions.
Right. Yeah.
You can keep putting in that positive energy or you can step away, but either way, you're not letting the other person dictate your own self-worth.
This is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
It's about taking responsibility for our own actions and reactions, but also like accepting that we can't control everything.
That's it. And that brings us back to this idea of seeing the good in everyone. When you approach everything, you know, with compassion and understanding, it's easier to let go of that need to control.
Right, right. Okay, so let's try to sum all this up. We've got detachment, selfless action, and seeing the good in everyone. How can we use all of this, these ideas, to navigate life in a way that, I don't know, is more fulfilling?
It really comes down to shifting our perspective. You know, instead of focusing on what we can't control, we focus on what we can.
Yeah.
Our own thoughts, our actions, how we react. And we try to be kind, even when we're faced with negativity.
Okay.
And we learn to let go of that need to micromanage everything. Just trust that things will unfold as they should.
You know, this is so much more practical than I thought. It's not about like becoming some emotionless robot.
Right.
It's about finding that inner strength to face challenges with a bit more, I don't know, grace and wisdom.
Exactly. And it's a journey. It's not like you just suddenly arrive.
Right.
You know, there are going to be times when you feel more attached, more reactive, and that's okay. Just keep practicing.
Keep coming back to those principles.
That-
Attachment, selfless action, seeing the good,
Yeah, you got it.
like building a muscle, right?
Exactly. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And as you keep working on these things, do you think you start to notice a difference?
Oh, absolutely. You'll feel more peaceful, more centered, even when things are crazy around you.
So as we wrap up our look at Chapter 5, what's one thing you hope our listeners will take away?
I think the most important thing is remembering that we have a choice. We can choose to get caught up in the drama, or we can take a step back, breathe, and face things with a little more detachment and compassion.
And remember that lotus flower, growing in that muddy water, but not letting it define it.
Beautiful, right?
You could do the same.
Absolutely. We all have that inner strength. Sometimes we just need to remember it's there.
So to our listeners, as you go about your week, we'll leave you with this thought. What's one area in your life where you can practice this detachment?
Good question.
Could be a relationship, work, even a habit you're trying to break. How can you approach that with a bit more grace, compassion, and a little less attachment to the outcome? Think about that, and we'll see you back here next time for Chapter 6. See you then.